This is the Skin in the Game VC podcast, hosted by Tom Wallace, entrepreneur turned venture capitalist and the managing partner at Florida Funders, along with Saxon Baum, general partner and head of investor relations at Florida Funders. You'll learn from the best about investing in early stage tech companies, so you too can gain the confidence and find the tools that help you succeed as an angel investor. Are you ready to get some skin in the game?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Skin in the Game pod today. My name is Saxon Baum, and I'm the co-host of the Skin in the Game pod. I am also a partner and head of investor relations at Florida Funders, Florida in the Southeast's most active venture capital fund. Today, I am solo. My great co-host and founder of the pod, Tom Wallace, is out in California enjoying himself. So, Tom, if you're listening, I hope you're having a great time. We are so excited today to have a guest that's a little bit non-traditional for us. Not a tech founder, not a venture capitalist, but an amazing founder and somebody that I've known for basically my entire life. We're going to hear today from Frank Smith, who is an amazing founder, as I said before, in the multimedia space. But before we do so, I have to address my t-shirt. It's obvious that I'm wearing this Fish at the Sphere shirt. I was at the Sphere this past weekend in Las Vegas, and I would encourage anybody that loves technology and loves music, you have to go and check this out. This is one of the coolest venues in the world. Everybody's talking about it. So if you can get there, I would tell you, try to get there because it really was unbelievable. We're going to skip our tech talk today because Tom's not here, and we're going to jump straight into it. Frank, how are you, my friend?
Sax, it's great to be here, man. Hey, I appreciate the intro. You know, if you get an intro that doesn't include my middle name, then you really have known me for my whole life. So that's it right there, man. It's great to be on.
That's the OG right there. And that's a good point. As I said before, I've known Frank almost my whole life, but now it's Frank Michael Smith, which is his middle name. And that's the brand that he's built. Frank, tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today, and overall what the business does and what you guys are really focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at this a long time. And by this, I really just mean content. That's like the buzzword. Originally, I always thought of it as art, but everyone calls it content now. I was an early YouTuber. Like back in 2008, I would make these highlight videos just because I was curious about video making. And for anyone that ever got a laptop in class, like YouTube was just cool. I wanted to figure out how to be on there. So, man, I started, what is that, like 16 years ago now? But it evolved into me being a founder of a media and content and publishing company.
And tell us about how you got there today. I mean, your channel, you have tens of millions of views on videos. You focus on these really cool short reel sports videos. Tell us about that content, how you decided to really focus on what you focus on now. What was that inflection point that kind of got you to say, this is really what's going to build the brand?
Yeah, I remember a story in specific. So I'll back up a little bit before I tell it. I moved out to LA in 2017 to work in sports media because I knew I wanted to be somewhere in the content creation game, and I always loved sports. So it just made sense. I never really had a dream of moving out to LA. That's just the way it worked out. I remember it was like a Christmas party I think it was in 2019 or 2018, the first time I saw TikTok. It had just became TikTok. Then it was Musical.ly, but there were these founders that had 25 million followers on their TikTok page. And I was like, oh, wow, like you can't really fake that. I don't know any accounts that have 25 million on Instagram. Like this is kind of nuts. So I got involved with them. I scrolled their page and I just figured out like what this platform was, what short form video was going to be. And I was really inspired to tell stories because I had seen this work on YouTube for years. And, if you've ever published a YouTube video, it's kind of like, layer a little bit of fat on there, try to get to the 8-minute point so you can sneak another ad in. And I was like, you know what? I think I could tell this story in 1 minute. So I know how to edit videos. I have a camera. Let's just go for it. Let's give it a shot. And I've worked on a lot of projects in my life, Sax. I've never had one blow up as quick as this. I think my first video got like 100,000 views. So
what was the first video? Do you remember?
It was about Giannis's life story. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the player for the Bucks. He obviously has an incredible life story, and it's widely reported on. So I didn't have to do too much digging for that one. But it was my first video. It was just a test. Exploded.
Explain to the audience the type of videos that you're creating and what's that kind of pattern that you try to follow with these videos.
Sure. So, the structure of what I do, which is now further than TikTok, it's YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Snapchat Spotlight, everywhere where you can get videos, basically. I'm either doing opinions, which I did one today about Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back. I'll do these a couple times a week, but I'll also tell evergreen stories like Giannis's life story. I did one the other day about the Chilean goalkeeper who kept a razor blade in his glove to cut his face and play the victim. Crazy story, but no matter what I'm doing, whether it's a story or an opinion or just a thought I have, it's always structured. So the same way you think of a movie plot where you're like, okay, set up the characters, build the setting. What's the conflict? Here's the resolution. It's really the same structure, just condensed into 1 minute. So it's no fat. I'm talking pretty fast. The edits are top tier. And we have an amazing team that we've built. And you're in and you're out. It's really like, everyone's busy. I'm not trying to waste your time here.
And in terms of the content lifecycle, influencer lifecycle, we're at Florida Funders. We're invested in a company called Passes. The founder is Lucy Go. It's a content creation platform. And we've seen that, the influencer marketing was high, then it was low. I feel like now it's it's back on the rise. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing sort of in this creator content market right now? What's been exciting? What's been different? What's been challenging over the last, call it 12 months or so for your business?
Well, I'll say this. I still don't think the biggest brands have achieved like the freedom to let creators, how do I say this? To let creators be creative, really, in their approach. I've worked with a ton of brands, like top tier brands. Like I did one for Dawn in the Super Bowl. I'm going to have one for YouTube TV pretty soon here for NBA Finals. Like I've probably done 50, 60 of these now. And every once in a while, you get a brand who really gets it. And they're like, hey, we trust that you know how to talk to your audience. Go ahead and, here's the goal. We want you to promote X or Y, but you know how to get there. You know how to talk to your audience. We want this to perform organically, and maybe we'll put some spend behind it too. That's rare. I do get it, but it's rare. Most of these brands still want you to make something that feels very salesy. They don't really let you write the script. They make you hit certain points. And I'm not even going to complain about the video side because a lot of that's like you're trying to things are copyrighted. So I get that part of it. But as much as we hear about UGC ads and let the creators create, and they're like, oh, we have this new wave of creator. I don't even know if they don't even think they call it influencer marketing anymore, like creator economy marketing. It's really not there yet with the biggest brands. They're still lagging behind, at least in my experience.
What platforms and mediums are the biggest brands using? Are they using TikTok, or is it more traditional? It's funny to say traditional, but more traditional like an Instagram or an X or a Facebook?
Almost always when a brand reaches out to me, they want a combination of my TikTok and my Instagram. It's usually the same video cross-posted. And some, they'll want like a couple IG stories to go along with it, or, maybe something small to throw in there to make it a package. But they're never interested in the YouTube ever. Like no one wants to advertise on YouTube Shorts. Almost never.
Is that because and this is an assumption, it's more expensive to advertise on YouTube?
My YouTube is huge. I have 1.4 million subs on there. I have 1.8 million subs on TikTok, 200K on Instagram, but I determine the price. Like if a brand is coming to me, it's not like it costs any more than it would on TikTok. It's just that they're not interested there. I'm not sure the reason why, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. The TikTok piece is timely because I saw this morning, sort of this ever-going battle over the last year or so about trying to ban TikTok in the United States. Love to get your feedback on kind of where all that stands. Initially, just where does it stand and what do you think? And then we can dive a little bit more into that topic.
Well, this is not new. I've gone through this. Every TikTok creator has gone through this like 6 or 7 times now, it feels like. And every single time it seems like it's reaching a point where it's going to be banned and then it's not banned. I think banned is probably the wrong way to frame this entire thing. Like maybe they're using strong language to scare people, but let's be honest, like that's just the US loses if TikTok is banned. TikTok has its headquarters in Los Angeles. Like there's thousands of Americans who work for TikTok, and it's a big part of the tech sector now, and it has been for years. So saying it's going to be banned, probably being framed the wrong way. Like the more realistic thing is we're going to return to where we were at the end of the Trump presidency, where companies like Walmart and Oracle are stepping in to buy like a majority piece of this. And that's probably, if this does, I saw the Senate pass today, but if this does continue, I think that's much more likely.
So some sort of divestment with a large US-based company that'll take a piece of it. It's not going to be, okay, tomorrow, everybody turn on your phone and TikTok isn't on there.
No way. Like that's just totally unreasonable. It's not happening like that. I've talked to people who work at TikTok too. Like I have a good relationship with them. They really do have officials coming in, checking their database, seeing what's going to Beijing and what's not every day. Like that's a real thing that happens there. So it's not like this is just some, oh my God, like TikTok is a loose cannon. And I don't know, because I haven't actually been there, but from what I've heard, it's not like that. This is highly monitored stuff.
Is there a concern by you as a creator that, uses the platform as your kind of dual primary platform? Is there a concern about the connection with the Chinese?
A concern from like my own personal safety?
Yeah, I guess personal safety, personal brand.
No. I mean, what would people want with me? Like, first of all, I'm like not that famous. Like people think like sometimes my fans will think like I'm really famous. I'm not. Like I might take a picture at the Pirates game, but like I don't know how this would affect my personal safety or anything. I don't know. Like they can serve me better ads, I guess.
Are you thinking that if the banning of TikTok, let's reframe that word, the banning of TikTok, but really more of the divesting of maybe the parent company, would that substantially affect the overall industry, or would it just be a speed bump and then a continuation of currently what we're seeing in the TikTok market?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of eyeballs. Like if you were to split the eyeballs and the attention into like a pie chart here, they're not just going to go away. So companies like Meta and Google really want this. Like they want their slice of the pie to be larger, and they're lobbying for this, and they're acting in their own interest, which, I mean, it's competitive. It's a little dirty, but it's competitive. The eyeballs aren't just going to go away. And I've worked really hard to make sure my business is diversified. So like I mentioned earlier, we're really big everywhere. There's not a social platform, I mean, X included here, where we don't do big numbers. These eyeballs are going to go somewhere else, and we have a strong foothold elsewhere. So it's not like I'm going to be hurt by this. It's just the attention's going to be elsewhere.
Yeah, no, and I think that makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat. It's just like the business we are in. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. You need to be diversified. That's just business 101 across the world. Is you got to be diversified. If one channel goes down, you got to be able to go to the next one. I want to talk a little bit about monetization. A lot of our viewers, they ask about Jake Paul. Jake Paul is somebody that we work very closely with. He's the co-founder of Better, one of our largest portfolio companies. he's done very well at monetizing his brand and his NIL, his name, image, and likeness. How do you as a creator, Frank, think about monetization, and how have you been able to monetize the eyeballs that you've gotten on these platforms over the last several years?
Well, first, let me make a distinction. Like, there's two different kind of creators, and Jake and I fall into different buckets. So when we talk about creators, like typically you think of someone like Jake Paul. That person, that type of creator is the story. They are not a storyteller. They are the story. These are like the streamers you think about, the people who are really going to be able to sell their personal brand usually fall into this bucket. I do have a personal brand. My page is called Frank Michael Smith, but I'm a storyteller. I'm closer to like a newer version of traditional media, like Vox or something like that. Like I'm closer to that in 2024. So we're very different in the way we're going to monetize. But the way that both of these classes are the same is you have to build a business. Jake's done a great job of that. He is, I don't, I'm not his accountant, but I'm sure he has a wide range of revenue streams right now. You mentioned Better. He started off making money just CPM style on YouTube. Or Vine, actually. I don't think he ever got paid by Vine, but he moved on to YouTube after that. He has excellent brand deals, which is also going to be a similarity here. But when you get to something like Better, that's a real business. Like that is what you have to create. You're going to see that's what people like Mr. Beast do. Emma Chamberlain's done a great job doing that. People like Graham Stephan on YouTube talks about this a lot. It's something I'm doing right now as well. It's a little harder to see for me. But one of the things we've done really well beyond me as a personal creator is to build a network of creators and take advantage on Snapchat. That's been massive for us. These Snap Discover shows, very early on, I realized, wow, I have some of the best editors in short form video. So let's offer our resources here to all these other creators and build them Snapchat shows. And that's been extremely lucrative for the last 2.5, 3 years for us.
And so you have the business that you're building on the editing side and the other content creators that are working with you that I'm assuming you get a piece of. You mentioned sponsorship deals. In the sponsorship deals, are you typically reaching out to them, or are they typically reaching out to you? How does that arrangement usually work?
Yeah, I'd say 90% of the time they reach out to me.
Okay.
I do have excellent representation at WME, and they go out and hunt deals for me too. But most of them, they come to me and I filter off to them.
And then anything else that you're thinking about for the future in terms of monetization? You talked about a Mr. Beast. He created Feastables. I think they did, I want to say roughly 400 million in sales their first year. You have Jake with Better. You have Logan and KSI with Prime. Sort of this. No longer it's a brand that's getting an affiliate via marketing with a creator, but it's a creator actually being a co-founder, a founder of a brand. Are you thinking about anything like that for you guys in your channel moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned Snapchat as like the first thing we did to establish ourselves as, not just a personal brand or a TikTok channel, but actually a business. And that's laid the groundwork for us to create some of the projects we're working on right now. The most exciting of which is 5-Card Draw. This is a game that is unlike anything else in the market right now. It's free. It is technically a daily sweepstakes, but it functions as a fantasy game for anyone. But we found that younger people who don't have a lot of money like to play. It's free.
Typically goes that way. And that is who consumes a lot of my videos too. So it's a perfect match for my demo. And this is something that's gone extremely well since the top of the year. We've had 40,000 monthly active uniques and growing rapidly with almost spending zero on marketing. So we're super excited about where this business can go. So I have two more questions about the business side, and then I want to flip and talk about sports and media and what you're seeing, kind of on the forefront of technology, sports, and media. Talk a little bit about, Frank, sort of your fundraising journey. This is something that you and I have talked about at length, where you haven't raised traditional venture capital, but you've been able to build a great business, bootstrapping that business. So that means not taking on, investment dollars, but reinvesting your gains and income back into the business. Can you talk a little bit about that decision, why you made that decision, and if you had to go back, would you do anything differently in terms of the financing of the business?
Well, when I started this in 2020, that's when I left my job in sports media to expand on that Giannis TikTok video I talked about. I was able to be profitable right away because I knew the back end side and I had relationships in sports media. I was able to get a sponsor really early on, this company called Sports Betting Dime, they're not a sports book. They're actually just they're like a reference company, basically. So I was able to start making almost my exact same salary just from this one sponsor. So I felt really good. I was like, okay, I'm making money. I'm not starving here. I don't need to necessarily raise money. I did consider it early on because I wanted to grow my team. That Snapchat deal I mentioned really changed things. Like that allowed us to bootstrap, like you talked about, and invest and build this video editing team that I mentioned. So we were able to hit on a couple of these early deals and ventures and projects that we were able to bootstrap. I wouldn't really recommend it to other people. My situation is going to be unique, but the way I look at it is, no, I wouldn't change anything. But in the future, for a company like 5 Card Draw, where it really does seem like we need to dump gasoline on this fire, I am thinking about it. So, it's circumstantial.
Yeah, it depends where the business takes you, of course. All right, I want to switch gears. And as we talked about, primarily a lot of your stories, and there's others, but primarily a lot of your stories are focused on sports. Being in the media world, being in the content world, what are you thinking and what are you seeing over the next decade around sports, media, and entertainment? Because from my side, those lines have been completely blurred, where those were 3 separate verticals. Now those lines are very much so blurred, like a bettor and the content that they're producing, feeding back into the betting product. What are you seeing across the board there?
Well, maybe the number one thing I'm seeing is that consumers increasingly don't trust the institutions. This is true not just for sports, but for most of media. ESPN bringing out something like the Pat McAfee show is game changing. That's a moment where we're basically just seeing podcasts on TV. We had this a little bit, like I remember they used to air Colin Cowherd's show when I was a kid. That's basically just a radio show. But I really think these personal brands are elevating above the traditional networks. People want to get it directly from the source. And typically the way they're going to get that too, I don't really think it's writing. I still read a lot, but most people are not like me. Most people want to watch videos, specifically short form videos, but long form videos too. Long form videos and YouTube still crush. I think that's what's happening here. Like I don't know any people younger than me that are just like, I can't wait to read The Athletic. Like, you don't really hear that. It's not something that happens. That's not a shot at The Athletic. I really like them, but I don't think that's the way of the future.
Yeah, and I think you made a really good point there. It's sort of this focus on individuals. And we're seeing that now with the rise of social media and the rise of visibility with athletes. You have athletes building their own personal brands, leveraging those personal brands, and really building a business around themselves. And so that's something that I've thought has been really interesting over the last, call it decade within sports, when you have, I feel like it started with the NBA and then it went to the NFL. We're starting to see it across the board. Look with everything with Caitlin Clark. I mean, individuals are actually bigger than the leagues and the teams at this point. Anything to add there?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily new. Like Michael Jordan was probably the first one to do that. And that was, his brand was probably like that in like
good point.
The late 80s. I'd probably say he reached that point.
Yep.
But, like to kind of expand on that McAfee point I made, ESPN doesn't own his show. They license his show. He owns it. That's why he was able to play hardball with some of the execs there. And, the guy that he had in the scope just got, he didn't get fired. I think he left the company, but that's the kind of power that's being exerted because ESPN knows, just like these other traditional companies know, the game has changed. People do want it directly from the source. And you see it with the athletes too, like you said, with Caitlin Clark. She just signed the big Nike deal. It's good and it's bad though. Like there is a part of me that is just like, wow, that was kind of nice when you had the same players in your team for like 4 or 5 years. That was fun. It was fun when we got to see college guys. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why women's college is so popular. They stay on the team. They don't switch teams every year. So you're actually able to have some continuity there. Part of me kind of wishes it was still like that, but we're never going back. It's just not happening. There's too much money.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Frank, anything else to add today? It's been awesome hearing about your story and the success that you've had.
No, nothing else to add. I can add some details, some of the things I talked about. The game, if everyone wants to try, is 5card.co. It's free. Takes 10 seconds. All my channels are Frank Michael Smith, except Twitter, just Frank Mike Smith there. They wouldn't let me get the full middle name in. Too long. But yeah, Sax, it's been great being on, man. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Frank, thank you so much. It was great to see you and good luck with your continued success. Everybody else, thank you for listening. This was a great show, a little bit non-traditional, but that's what we're all about here. Once again, my name is Saxon Baum. I'm a partner at Florida Funders. If you like the show, please go on, subscribe, follow. Frank, I think you have something that you do on your show like that, right? At the end of every show, you say something. And if you like,
I used to have that in the beginning. I say, "Throw me a follow if you didn't know this."
Throw me a follow if you didn't know this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
That worked.
It worked. Well, I'm going to copy that. So throw me a follow if you liked it. Thank you for being here today, and we'll be back with another episode in the next week or so. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks for spending your time with Skin in the Game VC today. If you want to learn more about investing in early-stage tech like a venture capitalist, be sure to visit the Florida Funders website at floridafunders.com. Join our angel network at no cost and get access to Florida Funders VC-vetted investment opportunities in the next great breakout tech companies.